Good morning, and welcome to the home of the Calgary Unitarians. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey of faith and search for meaning, welcome. If you're visiting for the first time, or for the first time in a long time, know that we are grateful to have you with us. We come together in beloved community to grow in wisdom, welcome and deepen relationships, and act for a just and sustainable world. Before we begin, we pause and recognize the land we're on and our responsibility to be stewards of the land, and acknowledge that we do this with those for whom it is their traditional territory. Here in Mohkinstsis, now known as the City of Calgary, we acknowledge our Treaty 7 relationship entered into on September 22nd, 1877, with the people of the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations, and also the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda, who comprise the Bearspaw, the Chiniki, and the Wesley First Nations. Mohkinstsis is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. And in offering a land acknowledgement, we honor those who have long been the stewards of this land and accept our shared responsibility for being good caretakers. And we acknowledge that treaties were entered into as a collaboration between settlers and Indigenous people, making us all treaty people. My name is Pam Rickey. I use the pronouns she and her. I have the privilege of serving on your board of trustees. And this congregation is special to me as a community of people of shared values, friendship, and mutual support in my spiritual exploration and in my social justice work. And just a reminder, please join us after the service for our social time. We'll go into small breakout rooms where we can chat and just be together for a while.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Shelley Thompson, and I also welcome you to this place made holy by our presence together. I light our chalice with the words of 13th century mystic Sufi poet Roomie. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come, though we've broken our vows 1,000 times. My beloveds, our Unitarian Universalist faith is undergoing a radical transformation. In large numbers, our congregations are committing to adopt and enact our 8th principle, which calls us to accountably dismantle racism and other repressions in ourselves and in our institutions. We have long passed the moment when this moral imperative can no longer be debated or postponed. It's more than a principle, it's a covenant. It's a covenant that has indeed been broken several thousand times, including all the times we have omitted that crucial last line of Rumie's poem. The Canadian Unitarian Council is devoting a lot of time and energy and resources to supporting us through this difficult transformation process, which ultimately will take more than one lifetime. There are those among us here at Calgary Unitarians committed to this life-affirming process who are also ready and willing to provide support. Thank you. We do hope that you will all join with us. Because our covenants, the commitments we make to be in right relationship with one another, are the foundation of our Unitarian Universalist faith, we need to examine them for omissions and expand our spiritual practices to widen the circle of concern to more fully include all people. This is not only a social justice issue or a racism issue, although the stakes are very high in those areas. This goes right to the heart of what it means to truly welcome one another every time two or more of us gather. I invite us now into a time of worship, time to consider what is of worth to us as a people of faith, and search our hearts for the courage to join the caravan.
Good morning, friends. It's good to be together again in this virtual space. We're going to sing together now a hymn that members of this congregation know very well, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, words attributed to the poet Roomie, with music by Reverend Lynn Unger. We have sung this piece in the way that it's printed in our gray hymnal ever since I have been a Unitarian musician, 21 years now. And I have recently learned from our interim minister, Shelley Thompson, that Lynn Unger intended a second part to this piece, which follows the words that Shelley spoke at the beginning of our service. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. So you're going to see that screen come up in your lyrics with very repetitive melody, and I hope you'll learn it along with me today. Let's sing, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
It's great to see everyone this morning. I'm Dearie Sheila, and my pronouns are she and her, and I have my pterodactyl with me today, and their pronouns are they and them. And we have a story to share with everyone today about how it can be hard to make friends. As many of you are going back to school, start of the school year, and many of us are starting our new Calgary Unitarian year. I'm just going to share with you my screen. It's called We Don't Eat Our Classmates by Ryan T. Higgins. It also says, hey kids, you'll never be eaten by a T-Rex. They're extinct, I promise, just in case some of you are a little bit worried. All right. Here we go. Penelope Rex was nervous. It's not every day a little T-Rex starts school. What are my classmates going to be like? Will they be nice? How many teeth will they have? This was very important. Penelope's mom brought her a new backpack with ponies on it. Ponies were Penelope's favorite because ponies are delicious. Penelope's dad packed her a lunch of 300 tuna sandwiches and 1 apple juice. Finally, the big day came. And Penelope Rex was very surprised to find out that all of her classmates were children. So she ate them because children are delicious. The end. No, just kidding. There's more. Penelope Rex, said Mrs. Noodleman, we don't eat our classmates. Please spit them out at once. So she did. It was not the best way to start school, and still Penelope was determined to have a good first day. She tried hard to make friends at recess. She finger painted some of her best work. She even saved Griff and Emery a seat at lunch. You can sit here. Penelope started to notice that everyone was making friends but her. And it was lonely. When she got home, her dad asked about her first day of school. I didn't make any friends, Penelope cried. None of the children want to play with me. Penelope Rex, her father asked her, did you eat your classmates? Well, maybe, sort of, just a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to make friends, said her dad, especially if you eat them. You see, Penelope, children are just the same as us on the inside, just tastier. That gave Penelope a lot to think about. The next day, Penelope tried really hard, but poor Penelope, she could not stop herself from eating her classmates. Mrs. Noodleman, Penelope ate William Mamoto. And they were all afraid, except Walter. Walter was a goldfish. So Penelope tried to make friends with him. Will you be my friend? Chomp. Eee! Cried Penelope. He's eating my finger. Wah! Once Penelope found out what it was like to be someone's snack, she lost her appetite for children. She stopped eating her classmates, even when Cece Woodman spilled barbecue sauce all over herself. And soon Penelope made friends. Found you. Want a brownie? I helped make them. Now, even when the children look especially delicious, she peeks at Walter and remembers what it's like when someone tries to eat you. And Walter the goldfish stares right back at her and licks his lips. Because dinosaurs are delicious. There we go. That was a great story. I liked it because just like our theme today, come, come, whoever you are, you know, whatever mistakes we make, it's okay to come back and try again. And if you eat your classmates, spit them out and try again and make some friends. And one thing I want to say is sometimes it's hard to make friends, you know, whether you're going to school and it's new class or whether you're an adult. I think many of us have been home and have forgotten how to have conversations with people. That's true for me. Is that true for you? Yes, we've forgotten. And so what might help is coming out to some of our events. So next Sunday at 2 to 3, we have an all ages play date with a Sunday theme for all the children and youth, and parents are welcome. And we also have on Friday a youth fireside with campfire stories at 7:30. So those are some great things going on. But also check out the e-news on our website. I know that we have great things like coffee choir and Wednesday night social night. And I'm going to be putting together a photo club for all ages. If you're between 3 and 103, you're welcome to come. And so there's a lot of ways that we can practice making friends and coming together again. And one friend that I have told me this fun fact, that the T in t-shirts actually stands for Tyrannosaurus Rex because of the short arms. Actually, that's not true at all. She was just pranking me. She totally got me. I was like, is that true? But one thing I do know is that anything a Tyrannosaurus Rex holds, it is close to its heart because it has short arms.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our
Thank you, Jane. I love that song. Come, come, whoever you are, all are welcome. Bring your whole self. Share your joys and sorrows. Come belong with us. Bring your gifts and bring your imperfections too. As Unitarian Universalists, we want to be welcoming to all people across any and all differences. We know we're all enriched by participating in diverse relationships and communities. Our principles express good intentions for humanity and the whole world. We want to be inclusive. In some ways, we really are. Our LGBTQ2+ work has come leaps and bounds over the last 20, 30 years, and we're still growing in those areas. We have made a lot of progress, and that's wonderful. However, our faith tradition has had to face up with increasing urgency to some hard truths about our dominant white culture. We are, albeit slowly, learning to better listen to our BIPOC siblings and those with other marginalized identities, to really hear and understand the way that our impact falls far short of our good intentions, including ways that we welcome that result in harming and othering the very people we're trying to invite into our communities. Today's chalice lighting is featured in some brave testimony from two of our Muslim Unitarian Universalist siblings. In a Facebook post in 2019, Ranwa Hamani, a congregational justice organizer at the Unitarian Universalist Association, and UUA Central East Region staff member, Sana Saeed, wrote a letter called About Us, Without Us, a call to our Unitarian Universalist siblings from Muslim Unitarian Universalists, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. They wrote to tell us about the harm that is done to them and to our faith communities when we're too quick to appropriate other cultures and faith traditions without really understanding them or including people for whom those traditions are sacred. I will share with you some excerpts from their poignant letter. The women say, if you have selected readings from Rumi, Hafez, or any other Sufi mystics without informing yourself and others of their Muslim origins and beliefs, you have culturally misappropriated from and or exotified the Islamic traditions. One common instance is the UU hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, which uses words from a poem by Jalaluddin Muhammad Rumi, but fails to include the theologically essential words, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. These omitted words highlight the merciful nature of Allah, central to Islamic theologies, and the acknowledgement that it is human nature to make mistakes, including ones that cause harm. They go on. We write this statement to call on Unitarian Universalists to engage in accountable, intentional, and humble solidarity with Muslims, including Muslim Unitarian Universalists. We write this statement to call on Unitarian Universalists to stop acting for us and start acting with us. Include Muslims and Muslim Unitarian Universalists in our conversations about solidarity, relationship, and the Islamic traditions as one of Unitarians' Universalism's sources. Include us in this faith, not just our trauma, our poetry, and our holy texts. End quote. My dear ones, this plea for accountable, intentional, humble solidarity, for authentic relationship is but one example, and there are so many more from BIPOC UUs and UUs with other marginalized identities. It's heartbreaking testimony. We are being called to transform ourselves and our ways of being in relationships in response. It's the right thing to do. It's the necessary thing to do if we want Unitarian Universalism to be relevant and sustainable in the 21st century. As a way of exploring the kinds of changes we need to make, let's take a closer look then at that sacred text from Roomie. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come, though we've broken our vows 1,000 times. As we've heard, this beautiful poem, so often spoken in Unitarian Universalist circles without that all-important last line, was adapted from the writings of 13th century Sufi mystic poet Jalaluddin Rumi. In addition to that selective UU editing, this is an English version of the classical Persian, and it's also been stripped of much of its Muslim content and context. This indeed is a version, not a translation. It's common practice where translation is too difficult and not at all poetic for English-speaking authors to take poetic license and change the words or use their own to appeal to Western non-Muslim audiences. In its original Persian, the poem, as translated by Ibrahim Gamard, says, "Return in repentance, return. Whatever you are, return. Even if you're an unbeliever or a Magian or an idol worshiper, return. This court of ours is not a court of despair. Even if you have broken your repentance 100 times, return. The mercy of Allah welcomes you, whoever you are." While we Unitarian Universalists want to be agents of mercy and forgiveness too, we want to share compassion and grace with everyone. Though our theologies differ, our values do resonate with the teachings of Islam. They're not the same. We're not interested in matching. But through the sharing of our diverse faith perspectives and cultures, we arrive at a deeper, more nuanced, complex understanding of our shared humanity. That longing to belong and be accepted, even in all of our flaws and imperfections. We have to take a deep dive into our own shared UU theology, which I think of as our process theology of covenant. That's what we share, before we go making superficial comparisons to superficial assumptions about someone else's theology. That's where we get into trouble. The disconnected, anonymous superficiality is where our biases and assumptions and harmful white supremacy habits live. Parker Palmer, the Quaker educator, calls this the tragic gap. Intentions, awesome, honorable, fabulous, way up here. Impact. Ouch. Ouch. We've been told over and over again, ouch, ouch. It's time to do something about that. We don't use the word repentance in UU congregations very often because the word can be associated with judgment and punishment. But it also means being humble enough and accountable enough to admit our mistakes, being vulnerable enough to apologize and ask for forgiveness so that we may be accepted into beloved community once more. This is an important part of the true process and purpose of covenantal community. Our principles and our values call us to welcome and invite one another to practice this kind of deeper, more authentic human relationship. This is hard spiritual work. It is okay and perfectly normal to be a little bit scared of it. So let's talk about some of the spiritual practices, the how-tos that allow us to navigate these human depths with love and compassion. How can we practice peaceful minds, peaceful hearts, and peaceful spirits more of the time in our direct interactions and relationships with other people? As I mentioned earlier, the Canadian Unitarian Council is devoted to supporting us in this vital undertaking. As a part of their commitment to enact our 8th principle, I found my bracelet. Now is the time for the 8th principle. Dismantling racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. A number of conversations are being held, which are being conducted with firm and compassionate adherence to a responsibility covenant. I like that, a responsibility covenant. This resource was created by Aaron Horvath and Amber Bellamar, who describe it as a tool to support cultural transformation in Unitarian Universalist groups that aspire to be more diverse and intentionally inclusive. I encourage you to read it in full on the CUC website, and I'll put a link in the next e-news. The resource starts with this dedication by Prentice Hemphill. Tender enough to feel, present enough to witness, humble enough to listen, courageous enough to act, accountable enough to change. The crux of the responsibility covenant approach to this difficult cross-cultural dialogue needed for authentic relationship building is the willingness to stay present and engaged, especially when the work becomes uncomfortable and we're tempted to act out of this discomfort to disrupt the process. This happens a lot when we get together to practice this. The authors encourage the use of firm compassion to help us call one another back in to covenant. Come, come, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Sometimes we experience distress, reactivity, or pain when we're talking about major differences in our worldviews. We know this is hard work. Part of compassion, the authors tell us, is, quote, acknowledging that dismantling old paradigms and replacing them with new paradigms is exciting, transformative work that is best done with caring, non-judgmental support. That's covenant. That's what we're here to do with one another. This support can provide the additional emotional security needed to tolerate the mental insecurity that sometimes comes with navigating these changes. Compassion might look like preemptively setting up pastoral care and debriefing support and role modeling support for it. Firm compassion, lovingly keeping our promises together. It's good stuff. The goal is to do our utmost to listen for understanding and to seek to know one another more fully without causing harm to one another in the process. Easier said than done. Knowing that we are not perfect, we practice accountability so that when we do cause harm, and cause it we will, we have a way to come back to connection and right relationship. We want to keep those bridges going. We don't need people to tell us that we're stuck or that we're terrible at this or we're bad UUs or that we're anti-racists. We don't need judgment. That is so not helpful. And it's not at all covenantal, right? It's why we have to practice covenanting the verb. It's a process. Through much painful failure, trial and error, and discovering what not to do, we've come to recognize that we do need more spiritual practices, mental disciplines that can help us manage our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, and our reactions that get triggered when we think of what is right or true or normal is challenged by someone else's reality and lived experiences. Reality is a subjective experience. There isn't one ultimate truth out there, but dominant white culture sure wants us to think that there is. In our dominant culture, the subjectivity of reality is set up like a competition. There's winners and there's losers. There's betters and there's inferiors. Ew, gross. This flies in the face of the interdependent web of all existence. This denies and undercuts worth and dignity. It damages people. We have to practice a different way of treating each other and relating to one another if we want to survive. And if we aspire to be good Unitarian Universalists. I do. It's important to me. It's my faith. For me, this is the why part of all this hard work. Why are we doing this hard thing? Because our principles and values call us to love and accept one another and build a more just and peaceful world. That's one answer that helps me when I get tired or discouraged. Now back to that responsibility covenant. Amber and Erwin have given us a 6-part covenant that's really that set of spiritual practices to guide us. I want us to learn and practice this covenant as a part of our commitment to transform Calgary Unitarians into a more inclusive and welcoming congregation. So we don't just practice it when we're encountering someone with whom we disagree. We practice it all the time in board meetings and at coffee hour and anytime we get together. And the more we practice, the easier it gets and the easier it is to manage our own reactions when we are confronted with a difficult relationship. The covenant goes like this. For each spiritual practice, I'll share the practice itself, followed by a few examples from Aaron and Amber's comments and questions that help us learn for understanding. These are all their wise words. Practice 1, welcome. Welcome people to share what's on their hearts in a way that is authentic to them and receive their offering with gratitude. Welcome. We can become accustomed to people sharing in ways that match the predominant UU culture and become critical of other ways that people might choose to speak about, conceptualize, explain, or otherwise share their perspectives. Anytime someone chooses to share any aspect of themselves, we have the opportunity to view the exchange as transactional or relational, as entitlement or as a privilege, as an intellectual debate, or as a heartfelt exchange. It's up to us to co-create a culture that is conscious of itself, flexible in its expression, and centered around gratitude for diversity. Practice number 2, engage. Engage my body, my mind, my spirit, and emotions in learning and embrace different perspectives. They ask us, in what ways am I open and or closed to engaging with and exploring all aspects of my being? Good question. Practice 3, inquire. Inquire about my own discomfort that arises when my security, worldview, privileges, traditions, protocols, and values are challenged. Upholding this aspect of covenant requires a level of self-awareness that only comes from conscious and humble self-exploration. I told you it was hard work. Practice number 4, ask. Ask questions. with the intent to deeply understand the person's views and resist the urge to make it about me, what I think I know. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could view every exchange as a sacred invitation to experience a glimpse of what life is like from another perspective? I think so. Practice 5, resist. Resist urges to debate, analyze, criticize, censor, dismiss, minimize, silence, moralize, project, perform, et cetera, to deal with my discomfort. No one will be able to be with us in their full authenticity if we cannot tolerate the discomfort of their truth. No one will be able to be with us in their full authenticity if we cannot tolerate the discomfort of their truth. Practice number 6, embrace. Embrace discomfort as an invitation to focus inward on personal transformation. If needed, I will seek out personal support to process my feelings in a private setting. As we listen more deeply, we can better understand how we have each come to our own perspectives and accept this. Accepting reality for what is in any given moment is not the same thing as saying that it's acceptable to us. It simply means we acknowledge that where we are in each given moment is the sum total of all the choices we and all those who came before us have made. It's an act of radical acceptance that does not seek to assign blame or label anyone villains or heroes. Once we truly accept what is, we can choose to embrace the journey of moving onward together. Beloved community is challenging. It's about unmaking and remaking ourselves. Expansion when we feel we might burst at the seams. It's about unconditional love and radical inclusion. It's not about comfort. We can embrace the discomfort that comes with the gift of expansion. In some cases, we might focus on understanding our role in creating an oppression we wish to end, and in doing so, embrace whatever that discomfort brings. In another case, we may want to help our community understand our or another's experience of oppression, and we'll need to embrace the internal discomfort that arises in us when we experience people pushing back in various ways for various reasons. In either case, it's extremely challenging to strive for greater inclusion while simultaneously embracing our communities exactly where we are. A lot of tension in that. They conclude, the vision of an inclusive world starts within ourselves, families, and congregations. We don't change the world from the outside. We change the world by transforming ourselves, one unconscious belief and pattern at a time. To be afforded the opportunity to do so within beloved community is one of life's sweet blessings. And they leave us with a quote from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. from 1957. But the end is reconciliation. The end is redemption. The end is the creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opposers into friends. It is an overflowing love which seeks nothing in return. I invite you now into a time of meditation, reflection, or prayer. What do these spiritual practices mean for our shared ministries here at Calgary Unitarians? Which one or ones of them seem most challenging to you? Do you sense any discomfort in your body or your mind around these practices and the processes of difficult conversation? How might you be able to help others learn and grow through these practices? What can we do together as a community to practice firm compassion and responsibility covenant with one another? Think about times in your own life when you've been accepted and been able to share your authentic self, and times when you haven't. Those experiences are common to us all. And from a place of love and compassion, we offer each other beloved community. We'll spend a few moments in silent reflection, followed by some music. And now is the time when we light our candles of care and concern for the moments of our lives that are too important not to share. You may share in the chat and also in the silent sanctuaries of your hearts. I light a candle for the joys, a candle for the sorrows and concerns, and a global candle for all humanity's celebrations and tribulations. Curtis Neal, son of Roxy and Ward Neal, wrote to share with us that his mother Roxy died on September 15th at the age of 98. They were longtime, very active members in this congregation. Gratitude for their service. Blessings on her transition. Suzanne Carrillo Diz, known to many of us from her work as the Indigenous organizer for the Calgary Alliance for the Common Good, shared with us that her beloved niece recently died by suicide. Our CU caring team sent a shawl, and many friends sent cookies. Suzanne called Pam Rickey recently to thank us for the cookies and the shawl. Pam tells us that Suzanne was especially touched by the shawl. She said she wrapped herself up in it and kept it on all day, feeling the warmth and love and support that it brings. She says it's beautiful and was moved to tears. She told me of an Inuit practice of giving a shawl to someone who was grieving. So it was the perfect gift. She asked me to send you all her gratitude. Thanks for sharing that, Pam. May all beings know peace. Please join us in singing Spirit of Life.
Spirit
We welcome each other into this space. We welcome each other's vulnerabilities and anxieties and courage and bravery. And we also welcome your financial contributions to help us make this a much better world. We'll now pause and take an offering.
In closing, I share with you the words of self-described mama, activist, contemplative healer, public intellectual, Mickey Scott Bay Jones, who offers us this invitation to brave space. Together we will create brave space because there's no such thing as safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars, and we have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and to continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. We extinguish this chalice, but not the bright, blazing flame of truth and courage that leads us to embody the greater good. Go in peace, go making peace, for now the service truly begins. Please join us in singing, Let It Be a Dance.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. let your body learn to bend, and like a willow with the wind, let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die, a time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
And friends, thank you for being with us this Sunday morning. Whether this is your first time with us or you're a longtime member of this community, please join us for our virtual coffee hour. You'll find the Zoom link that has just popped up in the chat area of your Zoom screen. We'll see you there. Thank you.